extra, Ryan. Extra applause. One more round. Let's hear it. Good afternoon. Good evening. Hello, wherever you are. You have landed on Distill It, a 360-degree view of life in sports. My name is Wendy Rosenthal. I am your co-host today, along with the lovely, fabulous, fantastic mother of a superstar, Ava Schwitzer.
Mother of two superstars, my second of which I have to wish a very happy birthday to
That's
today.
right.
My baby 7.
You are the mother of two superstars, but I was referring to your
My
superstar
singer,
daughter.
actress, star.
Exactly, daughter.
Yeah, it was a star of the opening night of the Lion King Jr. musical last night, alongside Wendy's little one, who
was in the ensemble, so not quite out there yet.
Yeah, but he
did a good
was
job.
loving it.
They
were
a good
amazing,
time.
so we're very proud of our kids.
Yes. How are you today?
Fabulous. So finally recovering a bit from the jet lag.
Yes.
Feeling better. Wendy and I have been in New York every week for a long time now.
Which is awesome.
And,
we love it.
Which is awesome. We love traveling. We love the project that we're working on, but we find that we don't recover from jet lag.
So if you're all seeing
as
me
quickly
and
as
I have some bags under my eyes, we don't
to.
look so fantastic today, it's because we're still getting over
Blame
jet
it on
lag.
New York.
So you have come to Distill It, and Ava and I love talking with you guys every other Thursday, and we feel we have the right to do so, well, mostly because we pay for the show, but besides that, we are the proud co-owners of the Distillery, a unique sports consulting firm that works with athletes as they transition from their life in sports to out of sports. We like to help them repurpose their athletic intelligence, and we are passionate sports fans, and that is why
we're here talking about sports all the time.
All the time. But we actually like to look at sports from a different perspective. We like to look at all the things going on in and around sports, not necessarily what's on the field, because while that drives everything, all the stories that we have found off the field are the ones that really show that life is that sports is a metaphor for life.
It is indeed.
And so we like uncovering these stories and sharing them with you. So again, welcome. We love to have your involvement. If you have any questions, want to comment, talk to our guest today, you can do so by calling in at 323-524-2599 or commenting on our Facebook pages. We check them every now and then, and we'd love to say hello. We do have
Mike Swinney is not allowed to point out mistakes.
Exactly.
Letting you
whatever
right
it is.
now, Mike, whatever it is,
You're in
keep
big trouble
it to
if you
yourself
do.
and you wait till we get in the car and we call you and ask you for your feedback, please.
Thank you for mentioning that up
You're
front. I overlooked that little note that I've been wanting to actually say to my husband for quite some time. Anyhow, we do have a guest in studio today that we are very excited to talk to. But before we introduce him, we want to first of all say hello to our fantastic engineer.
Well, hello.
Hello,
Good to see you guys
Ryan.
again.
We always miss you when we don't see you for a couple of weeks.
That's so nice.
How's things going?
It's beautiful. I have... My mic is all kinds of messed up. I'm good. I've had a beautiful week of sports, a lot of basketball, a lot of the draft lottery. It was a lot of fun. We were just talking about it before we got
We're going to
started.
talk about it in a
Talk about
minute.
some more, yep.
It was a good week.
We're going to get your opinions because, as we like to do when we start the shows, we do like to acknowledge that there is a very active sport world out there, and we like to comment on a couple of the things that are going on in that world. And we thought today we would start with, as Ryan so helpfully introed,
Yes.
the NBA lottery and draft, which occurred yesterday.
Yep.
Was very interesting. Before we get into Zion Williams and where he's going, I do want to make one comment. I read a very interesting article about the fact that there are conspiracy theorists out there that believe the lottery pick is completely rigged.
Right.
Usually rigged to the market that may have the worst team, but the best market in terms of numbers of sports fans and stuff
make
like
some
that.
money on that gear.
Exactly. So everybody was predicting that Zion Williams would be going to the Knicks for that reason.
Yeah.
Which
Poor Knicks. We don't mean to paint them in such a negative light, but they have not been performing well, let's just say.
They haven't, and that happens. And, there's ebbs and flows. Look, there 8 years ago, Golden State was the worst team in the league. So,
Right.
that's the beauty of sports. Cycles come and cycles go.
Yep.
But one of the interesting things, why I am mentioning it, but not because I have an opinion one way or another of whether
It is
rigged
rigged
or not.
Yeah.
It was fascinating me to ask the question of why do they do it that way at all?
Sure.
I don't know. Why is there why not just do it like all the other sports where it's kind of the worst team gets the first pick and it's like pretty, and then if that team wants to trade away their first pick, or you can, our guest, Michael McGinnis, who I will properly introduce, is sitting here shaking his head. So please feel free to jump in.
'cause we want to
But
know.
I don't understand. Why
Yeah.
make it why make it a lottery? Like you sit there and flip a coin. We are so much more advanced today.
We are.
We
so
have
much
such
more
technology.
advanced.
Look at what we're doing here on this vidcast. There's
Yes.
technology.
Well,
it could be very
we
easy.
We have VAR, so you'd think we'd be able to move past
Any
a
opinions?
lottery.
Ryan, I want to know. Why? Why
was
do they
actually-
do it that way?
Give me a minute. I'm actually looking it up. I'm
Okay.
actually going to be doing some research. I want a real answer.
I like that.
It really struck me. I was like, this is archaic and ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this poor kid is going to sit there and there's no negotiation. And maybe the Pelicans, okay, let's be honest. Anybody's going to want him, but maybe the Pelicans needed something different.
Right.
And now they're kind of like put into a position where that's where he's going to go.
Yeah, they have to make this happen.
I think it comes down to entertainment because the draft I have more experience working on will be the MLB draft, and that's not even nationally televised.
Right.
And you have the NBA draft where we're having a televised event before the event even happens. So it's just to draw more attention to what's going to
But the
happen at the end of June.
NFL, has a big event that I spent 2 days watching,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, and they allow the worst team to have the first pick. It goes in order.
Yeah.
The last 2 picks in the first round are always the 2 people that were in the Super Bowl. It's like not hard,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not hard.
I do hope they have a rationale because I don't know. Hopefully,
Ryan, we're
you will
counting on
cover
you.
it.
It's going to take more
pressure.
research than I was anticipating.
Okay.
Folks,
well-
we might have we'll have an answer for you
By the end of the show. I just had to pose it. I just had to pose that question. I'm sorry. And then what do you think about Zion going there? I'm sure the fans of New Orleans are very,
I
very
think they're
excited.
excited. Yeah, I think they're excited. I'm sure. How can they not be? And people are sort of wondering: was he relieved? Not to be ending up at the Knicks. New Orleans could be fun and different.
It's a party
know,
town.
not at all
You could
alone.
get into trouble there.
He could get into trouble in any
Any
city.
city.
I'm
This is
quite
true.
confident of it.
This is true. But they have to-go cups there. You don't have to-go cups
You
in New
have to
York.
go cups there.
I would get in trouble living in that city.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
I would.
Yeah.
I'd have my little, I did. Whenever I visited there, I've pulled into the margarita, shacks and driven off with my margarita. Like, that's dangerous
That's
stuff.
comforting. I pulled into the margarita shop and I drove off.
That's what the to-go cups let you do.
I know.
And then one
do.
more thing. I'm sorry. I'm on a rant.
You're on the Pelicans.
What the heck? How do you name a team the Pelicans? Like, there is no power. There's no energy behind it. There's no even.
Again,
there's
poor
nothing.
pelicans. We don't want
I
to
love
make them.
pelicans. They're awesome birds. They're beautiful and,
And they're strong.
statuesque.
And they're strong.
Yes, they are very strong.
Big appetites.
Yes, but they're. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I hear you.
How do you market that?
Yeah.
that-
How do
Yeah.
you do pelicans? Who sat around that table and
And so
went,
you know
let's
what?
New Orleans Pelicans.
Pelicans, that
could have been
sounds
the
right.
dome. It could have been the to-go cups. Would have been better. I'm sorry.
You've lost it. Move on.
These are the things that go through my mind, especially when I'm tired and
I know.
jet lagged.
Exactly.
All right, still nothing, Ryan.
It's just a lot of explaining what the process is.
Oh,
It's
it's
not
not
a lot of
not a why.
explanation. I think
The
it's
why.
I think it's just to give the worst teams all hope. I think is what it's kind of
But you
coming
do
down
have
to.
hope. If the worst teams, you're going to have the first, second, third. It's not like you're going down
But if
to
you
28.
But this is what they're saying: if you miss the playoffs, that you have a chance of getting the number 1 pick. So
a few teams as opposed to just
yeah,
one.
and so I would imagine it's just hope. I think it's just a hope thing. I don't know.
Well, that worked. I mean, the Pelicans had a
Excitement,
6% chance, so that's some hope that they didn't expect.
I'll keep looking
Right,
at it.
exactly. Hope.
Yeah.
Hope is such a nice thing.
in
Let's go with that.
in today's big business of sports, honestly, Like, do they really need hope? Can't they just negotiate behind the scenes? Honest to goodness.
Or just remove all salary caps and whoever has the most money, they.
No, that actually would be that makes it less fun for us. And then we end up paying more for our seats, and we pay enough now as it is. So I'm still good with the salary caps until somebody proves me wrong. All right, now that we've brought Michael into the conversation, let's get right to it. We have had the great fortune of meeting this very fine young gentleman, Michael McGinnis. Welcome.
Thank you.
Michael is a former athlete, a sports attorney, an agent, and an author. I brought his beautiful book right here with me.
Make sure you get that autograph before he
Yes,
goes.
I do. I have to get an autograph. The G.P.S. Guide for Athletes and Those Who Surround Them. We, again, had the great fortune of meeting Michael not too long ago because we are always in search of people who are really trying to help athletes kind of not only understand the sports scene and what it is to get into it, both from a amateur perspective and a professional perspective, but anybody who kind of sees the vision of how it's very difficult to move beyond your career once you have had a professional one, and what are those things that you can do, you know, in terms of thinking about it well in advance so that you are prepared. And not only that, and what we love about the perspective that you bring is that it's not just for the athlete, it's for everyone around them,
Right.
their support system. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, ladies, for having me.
If you wouldn't mind giving us, you know, a minute or two at most about who you are, your background, and kind of what brought you to this place, and then we can jump into all the things that you're working on right now.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, born and raised, a Midwest guy. Went out there, while I was there, I studied sports management at the University of Dayton. And that's where I first fell in love with the business side of sports. You know, played it all through life, growing up, wanted to be the next Michael Jordan, like any, you know, individual born in the 80s and 90s like myself that played basketball. But when
I did not want to be Michael Jordan, by the way.
But you were not born in the 80s and 90s.
This is true. Oh God, I'm so old. I forgot. Sorry, go ahead.
I just don't believe you didn't want to be Michael Jordan. I don't even think I don't care. Forget the birthplace.
I'm a football. I was down the quarterback lanes and the wide receiver. That's where I wanted to go. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
The sport, the name can be interchangeable.
There you go.
But the big thing that I said was my come to Jesus moment came my senior year of high school when Coach K was not at my games. He didn't come out. I don't know why. I mean, maybe he didn't get the memo that I was playing or what was going on.
Probably.
Shame on him.
But that's when I finally realized, because, you know, I'd played at a competitive level since I was in 5th grade when I first started trying out and playing at the select level,
Right.
but never knew what I was doing. Didn't have the guidance. You know, I came from a single mother. You know, she didn't know exactly what I should be doing, and it's not like resources were unlimited. And so it just was really, it's tough. It's a very tough road, and that's what kind of guided me throughout my process as I realized that I wasn't going to be Michael Jordan when really I should have been maybe trying to pursue being Derek Jeter or Mike Trout or what have you, because the statistical probability of at least going to college and into the pros is much better in baseball over basketball. But I decided, you know, to go into school as a psychology major. I wanted to be a sports psychologist because at the time it seemed so cool, you know, being the individual that was sitting on the couch with A-Rod, getting him through a slump, you know, just really providing a service to an athlete. Because at that time I realized the platform that sports was and the ability that it allowed for athletes to connect with the community for the good or for the bad. And I saw it obviously for the positive, but I know that there's definitely some negative ramifications of that too. Got there, didn't love psychology. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. Didn't see myself wanting to lay on the couch and go to medical school and do all this schooling. But then I ended up taking an intro to sports management course in the spring of my freshman year, and it was like the light bulb. That's it. There's this thing called the sports agent, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And since that day, it's been exactly what I've been pursuing. A lot of it unsuccessfully, some of it successfully. But it's been a great journey. It took me about 4.5 years to get an unpaid internship. Once I graduated from my undergraduate degree in sports management, enrolled in law school because I realized no one wanted a 22-year-old sports agent with no real experience at doing that.
Right.
Really? Shocking.
Yeah.
And
Again,
it's not like
light-
in the movies, you
Oh,
know,
no.
where all of a sudden, like, you know, you have this unique perspective and all of a sudden you become the superstar, you know, sports agent.
Yeah, no, I didn't get.
It's never hard.
I didn't get that quote unquote lucky break, we'll say. But it was for the best because again, my undergraduate program prepared me for that. We did so many things that it might have been a sports management degree, and I know a lot of people give those kind of that program or that area of study some flack, but if you know that you do want to do a line of work that's in sports business, it's perfect, and where you go to school really matters because my professors, Dr. Teitelbaum, Dr. DePrano, and a list of others really helped prepare me to fail and understand what that industry was like.
And we love that you say that. You
Yeah.
talk about this all the time. Prepare to fail and fail and embrace it.
Yeah.
It's
And move
so
on.
important. It's so important.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. It's a characteristic that is so integrated into an elite athlete's psyche because, it sounds trite to say it, but it's the truth. If you're a baseball player and you're batting 350, which is amazing, you're literally failing 3/4 of the time, right? Like you're literally striking out.
And you're
more
probably a
than-
future Hall of Famer.
Exactly,
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it's true with, how many passes do the great quarterbacks throw that get intercepted, or how many, So, I think a lot of times people are so afraid to attack failure head on, and I don't know why. People, from every sports psychology or from every spiritual discipline out there, all these self-help coaches always talk about failure and how
Right.
important it is, and yet
Yeah.
people we don't like it, and we don't want to embrace it, and we don't want to have fun with it. So
Well, that separates the elite athletes because, again,
Yeah.
when I was going through it without the resources, I tried all the tricks of the trade. I know that there was a visualization, and I remember maybe my junior, senior year, I tried to implement that, and it was told that Allen Iverson would sit before a game and visualize the entire game occurring. And I tried it, but I didn't. I mean, you try it once or twice, I go, maybe this isn't working, so I don't continue doing it.
Right.
But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has a quote that's kind of similar to that what the mind thinks the body does, and that's so powerful. I think that's why I first was interested in sports psychology, because I'm going to try to say I thought that, but I've come to realize now that it is so true. The elite athletes, when you look at the NBA, when you look at the finals that's going on right now, it's like, they are all extremely talented.
Yeah.
At that day, what matters is who's going to put out the noise that's going on at home, or maybe being a little bit sick, and just show up and be a professional.
Absolutely.
And that's all, because they're all talented. They're all some
Yeah.
of the,
they're
They're
elite.
elite.
Yeah.
They're all elite. There isn't one of them that's there that isn't amazing, or
they wouldn't
flat
be.
out they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But it's true. It is a mind game, as is everything. I mean, we always talk about your consciousness really is everything. It's the thing that drives you. But it's so hard to, you can't teach that.
Yeah.
You gotta learn it. And that's one of the very interesting things that maybe we can get into in a little bit, is that, and one of the things that we talk to our clients about is that everything that an elite athlete has internally that they have spent years practicing is everything that executives out there want, and to be a better employee, to start a business,
And what they pay good money to try and
we have friends that are our executive coaches, and what they do is amazing, but literally they get paid a lot of money to have somebody who is already up there going, please tell me how I do this. I can't, and like athletes have it innately.
Sure.
Maybe not so much innately, but they have many, many years of practicing it in their sport. So it's really fascinating that you bring that up.
Well, and I think it goes back to practice, in the sense that athletes had to practice and understand that they were going to continuously fail. But the other side is, it's so almost ridiculous, in my opinion, is that the academic system going through, it's that you must be perfect. You must get in the 90th percentile. You must get A's every time, because if you get the A's, what we were told, and I believed it pretty much all my life while I was going through school, if you get the A's, it magically opens these doors when you graduate. And sure, you maybe get into good grad schools, or sure, you maybe get into good jobs.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the real world starts, where they don't care what your GPA is, where you went to school,
Right.
can you produce or not? And when you can't produce, you could be a Harvard-educated individual that's got some person who has no formal education or training,
Right.
who's out producing you, and guess what? That's your boss in a year.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, we don't teach that. We teach other students, and that's why I realized that, a lot of the non-elite athletes, it's like they're following a system that really won't take them where they want to go. Elite athletes are following a system that very few of them will actually reach, and so we end up with what I feel is almost a level of, a lack of fulfillment. And I think we look at young people today, being that I'm, maybe considering that range
Because
being a
you're
millennial.
so old. Sorry.
No, it's just, but we're told, at least I remember coming up, and I hear it happening now. And
I love it when, what are you, 28 or something? The 28 goes, those young people today. It's like, Jesus, that makes me feel
he's
like
dealing
I'm
with
ancient.
clients who are much younger than he is.
Yeah, by 5 years.
And I'm 30 now. Thank you very much. No, I hit a new decade, and I'm so excited because
30s are a great decade. Enjoy it.
They are.
I'm just giving you a hard time because you're like those young people, like as if you were our age or my age anyway.
Yes, thank you. Don't try to make me old. Well, not that you're old, but make us
No,
old.
age is in your head. I'm
It
just
is.
saying.
Thank
There
you.
is
Thank
a
you. We're young.
there is a physical number that we can all acknowledge.
There is.
Older than 30.
It's older than 30. Yes, thank you. Back to your point.
Okay, this is a good time to interject. I think I found something on our
you
lottery
better.
Yay,
question.
what?
All right, so after 1984, it was they said coin flip. The Houston Rockets were given the number 1 pick, and they were accused of deliberately losing to get to the number 1 pick, and apparently a bunch of other teams were deliberately losing. So this is the don't tank rule.
Oh, but come on, who
Oh, that's
cares
funny.
if you're okay? How many games are there in the NBA season? 80.
82 regular season.
82. So you get to the end of the season, right? You've lost 65. Who cares?
Well, I think one thing I've noticed in sports that if you apply it to any other business, if Walmart all of a sudden wants to be the lowest/worst service provider of products and goods or services, what have you, no one would step in and say, hey, no, you have to offer your prices at this rate. If an owner or an organization wants to say, we want to lose, I know that I get that it's not best for the NBA, but that individual chairman, ownership group, if that's what they want to do, like, that's their business. You should let,
Also, when NBA is dominated by star players, and it's like, all you got to do is pick up a LeBron and you're a winner, and then all of a sudden you're in the finals for 9 years.
Well, not if you're
Well,
LA, by the way.
It's not
let's
that
just be
simple.
careful about that.
Exactly, it's not that
accurate,
simple.
Accurate.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you
now
for bringing that up.
That puts a lot of pressure now on Zion to go to New Orleans and now all of a sudden champs this season. It's not that simple.
It's not that
You know?
simple. It's
really
never that
not.
simple.
It's a lot of pressure.
Okay. Back to you. Sorry. Thank you for that little. Thank you for. I'm still appalled, and I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I doubt that they'll change it because of my opinion.
Okay, but tell us then.
So, and then as I kind of, matured through the process of the academic part of it and getting experience, finally was able to get the internship, was hooray, 4.5 years in, and then just did the grunt work that I had already been prepared to do. I was cold calling dozens of people per day, and like as an 18, 19-year-old student.
Sure.
So now doing that for something that I love to connect with athletes, it was all the skills and experiences that I had gotten from the academic side. I was now getting an actual practice, and I loved it. I scouted, I recruited, did that, but it was difficult. It was realizing that just getting on the phone, just having a meeting, just saying that the agent I worked with, he had prior to that represented Kurt Schilling, been in the business for 30-some years. All of those things, that doesn't still beat some of the bigger companies that are out there. And so I realized not only was getting into the industry difficult, being successful is probably 3 times as difficult.
Of course.
And so that's it was a new tool in my tool belt that I had to realize that you're going to hear no 99% of the time. And it's the one yes that you just have to be like, hooray, and hopefully they become Mike Trout. But no, it was a fun journey, but I finally, as kind of kept moving through life and realized that I was graduating law school. There was an opportunity to keep working there in Arizona with the agent. But I was expecting a family. Me and my fiance were getting married, and we just found out we were expecting our first son, Isaac, to be born. And I had to make the adult decision, I guess you could say, or however you want to look at it. For me, it made sense that I had to have a little more structure, a little more security. So I moved out to Los Angeles and took a job with the Department of Defense, writing and negotiating contracts. And at the time, it just aligned with the skills that I needed to develop, because that was the one aspect of being an agent. I wasn't the main negotiator. I was more client services, recruitment, if you will.
Sure.
But I was taking things on where in my mid-20s, I was working on a $10.2 billion contract.
Great experience.
Yeah. Scott Boras, and again, it's not to knock him, he's a great agent, but at that time, he had negotiated $2.3 billion worth of signing bonuses, or I guess MLB contracts. At 26, I worked on a $10.2 billion contract. And that's not to brag, but it's just to say I was able to,
But it's everything that we talk about. It's repurposing, learning how, in my career, the best thing I ever learned how to do, and I was not an attorney, was learn how to negotiate a contract, because it doesn't matter if it's a contract for one industry versus another. When you understand the ins and outs, then you can take that intelligence and reapply it to whatever you're doing.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Because generally speaking, it's the same.
Yeah.
I mean, the lingo might be different,
No,
but it's all the same.
It is, and once you learn that, and once you learn how to apply it, and you're able to do that, and that's when I finally realized, as being through the process, and then finally deciding to stand up my own operation, that I didn't need to rely on. I thought even still at that point, even though I had years of experience, years of great, high level education, that I still needed to be hired to do the work.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that an individual that my last year working on the draft in Arizona before coming out to California, one of the guys that we were trying to build a relationship with and end up working with as a client, got drafted but didn't end up working with us. A year went by, just stayed in touch, because it was like a 2 paths on this road, which one do I take kind of moment, where I normally always listen to the advice that the agent gave me, but this was one time where the individual who ended up being my first client, he was the first player that I by myself met with. And so it was like all these little milestones. So I was like, I'm going to keep in touch, keep the relationship, because I'm like, that's what really matters, right? I guess is what I was thinking. Now I hope that's what I was thinking. But I stayed in touch with him, built the relationship, moved to Los Angeles, and he ended up being my first client. He was like, I actually need an agent now. I want you to be the guy. You know, we built a good relationship. And that's where I had another aha moment that to do what I wanted required maybe some education, definitely some experience, and a whole lot of relationships. I had all three of those, and I was in business before I knew it. And it's been fun, it's been exciting, and I guess to bring it full circle to the book and a lot of the other things I'm doing now is that I hear or have heard probably almost every time I speak to an athlete in a family, no matter if they're Pee-wee level and their son's never going to make it to, the NFL, no matter if they're, the caliber of the next generation Zion Williamson, they all generally say, not all, because there are a select few that are different, so maybe I'll say 99%, say they know nothing about the process, they don't understand what's going on, they're not sure what to do. And when I heard it so much, I was like, this is a systemic problem. And so what normally happens is an agent, what value does an agent really have besides what they make you think their value is, which is, oh, I've got these contacts, I can do this, I can do that. But really, in my opinion, it's the knowledge, it's the information, it's the expertise. And most agencies and agents, they safeguard that because that really essentially is their real significance.
Sure.
And so if I don't tell you the secrets, if I don't educate, and if I don't empower you, then you need me. But I realized that that's not how I philosophically live life. So I was like, I want to give you a roadmap. I want to give you guidance on how the process could be. If you're one of my clients, not one of my clients, if you work with someone else, here's a book that will walk you through the state of the industry so you can understand how to best apply it. And what I did after writing the book was a year project. I realized that my focus was still on the future Mike Trouts and Zion Williamsons of the world. But there are roughly 5,000 of those individuals that are playing at the professional level actively. There's 60 million playing at the youth level. And not to say that the other 5,000 elite athletes aren't important. Everyone and their mother's chasing them and wants to provide them, quote unquote, service, if you will. But the 60 million, what most people want to do there is they want to just take their money. Actually, youth sports is a bigger business than the NFL, which is the largest sports organization on planet Earth. And so I realized whoever needed the information most was those individuals. And so that's where I changed my focus to, not change my focus, added to my focus to say, I now work to help guide just your average athlete, to go through the process and understand if you want to get to the pro and college level, it isn't impossible, but it's highly improbable. And if you do want to get there, it's really just about raising your value. I'll show you how to raise your value. I'll guide you through the process by understanding your mission, who you are, what you stand for, where you currently are with your skills and your experience, where you aspire to go, and we'll build a roadmap. Again, no guarantees because life doesn't work that way.
Sure.
But at least it's real as opposed to what most get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a tough thing because not only does an athlete, in order to keep at a certain level, have to believe wholeheartedly that they're going to get to that, that professional goal. Especially, look, I mean, there's, like you're saying, 60 million athletes that aren't playing, baseball, basketball, football. You still have many elite athletes that are in swimming and rowing and track and field, Gaelic football. And they all have aspiration and they all push themselves beyond and they all want to do really well in however way they want to do it. But one of the things that they can't do is believe that they can't make it. Right? And because they need to believe that they can make it and their families around them need to support that, it's just very interesting to see what happens along the way. Because, as a parent, say, or as a friend that's, trying to encourage their child or their friend to push harder, work harder, you can do it, you're the best. It's like at some point they're not helping. Or maybe they're not helping. I don't know. I would love to hear your feedback on that because then they get into a place we saw. I'll get off my soapbox in 1 second. We saw this.
It's very hard for her to do. It is. That's why she loves the show so much.
Thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate it.
Keep talking.
And still sitting next to me despite that.
We'll
fact.
always be here.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna knock you off the box.
Thank you.
That's not the point.
No, but we saw this great documentary, which we'll probably talk about many times, Student Athlete, and one of the examples was a young man he's playing in college right now. He's not come out into the pros, but like everything about what he was doing and everything about what his parents and his family were supporting him to do was to get to the pros. And it was painful to watch because you kind of go, I don't know if he really wants to go, and maybe that's how they were portraying it. But when they talk to his family, they were like, oh, this is his big dream. Oh, this, and you're like kind of watching what they're saying and then watching how he's behaving.
Yeah.
Not so sure.
Right.
Well, I feel like the big driver that is talking to a lot of parents, is doing as much market research and just really connecting people as possible. I feel, my hypothesis, and I shouldn't say mine, a lot of people feel this way, is that youth sports isn't about fun anymore.
Right.
And I'm not saying in the sense of, like, I heard, and I can't even believe this, that Little League, they don't keep score.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, losing is fun too. Losing is life. So I don't get the whole
Yeah.
no one should lose and no one should win.
Right.
I think that's a whole nother subject. But
Yeah.
Oh, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
but fun is just having the joy and having the experience. And fun goes out the window when, mom and dad are like, all right, we're maybe going to miss a mortgage payment, but we're going to pay $700 for you to go to this showcase. Or we're going to have to do these other things they have to sacrifice. And so I always think, and I feel this way too in my own life, it was one of those corny posters, and again, it goes back to the whole mental aspect. I remember being in school, it was like, aim for the moon. If you miss, you'll land among the stars, and things of that nature. And it's so true, is that I think everyone's goal and focus should be to aspire to do something that's really grand and really large, but also have a plan in place to systematically approach that. Because if you don't end up making that mark, you're not homeless, you're a doctor, and maybe you're not a sports physician, but you're a pediatrician or whatever that might be, as opposed to just blindly throwing your money into something that, hey, if you're willing to spend the money, someone is going to take it. And I won't speak ill of any organizations, but I could probably list off as many organizations in sports right now that all they care about is profiting.
Right.
And hey, to each his own. I mean, that's American.
Yeah, if you're going to make money, and if you want to give me money, I'm going to make money.
And that's,
why not? But to your point, it's one of the toughest conversations we have, both when we try and get access to, student athletes at the university level, or whether it's breaking into them more at the amateur pro levels. It's trying to break through that circle that protects them, where it's like, we don't want you coming in to discuss Plan B. Because for so many of them, it represents, giving any energy or attention to Plan B somehow in their heads means you're not allowing them to believe in themselves, in themselves, which is focus on Plan A. Right. The only option here is to get to the pros. And what's interesting for us is that the ones we have seen be the most successful in terms of transitioning from the pro level and beyond are the ones that did take the time to pay some attention to something else, even while they were playing competitively in the pros. The ones that gave some energy and some time to thinking about something else. If I get injured tomorrow, if my contract's not renewed, what do I do? And those are the ones that seem to have an easier time transitioning outside of the pros. So it's so fascinating to us because we're here to be able to give some sense of structure, to help you plan for what happens if Plan A doesn't work out. And people just cannot wrap their heads around that.
Well, and I think it goes to another thing that I talk about in the book a lot too, is that there's some power dynamics at play right now. We have to admit and understand that the minute little Johnny can throw a ball through a hoop, and the minute you register, go to a clinic, the minute money's exchanged for sports, it's a business. Right. I don't care how little, whatever, it's a business. So we have this idea of amateurs, and my opinion of it, and I'm not saying should go away, shouldn't go away, but it should be questioned. And if we don't try to understand why does something exist in America that doesn't exist anywhere else on planet Earth, and is almost probably the most un-American thing you can think of, that if someone is talented enough to do something, they should be able to do it and be compensated for it. Yeah. And I know, again, not because there's so many issues we could go back and forth.
We're not discussing the NCAA, but we are.
But I think we need to acknowledge that it is business. And I'm not saying that it's maybe business like BP and what have you, but it is business.
No, it is. Yeah. It's business. Here's the interesting bit. It's business in high school. It's business right now when our kids are 7 years old. It is a business, and it's okay. I think what you're saying is it's fine. Let's just acknowledge it, and it is a business, and that's fine. If you're going to look at it that way, then maybe you'd shift some of the ways that, it drives me crazy in the youth sports like AYSO, sorry, but you have parents who are volunteering their time, okay, but I'm paying not a small amount of money to have my kid involved in it, and I know there are big organizations like AYSO that's highly compensated, and they say yes, everybody in it is a volunteer, but if that were true, then they wouldn't, they wouldn't operate. So clearly people are getting paid for it. And yet, I, as a parent who coached my son's team felt completely inadequate. My son did not get any kind of value really because my training was, the basic level training. And, we were constantly upset there weren't people setting up the field. It was a waste of time. Our kids sat around instead of being in practice waiting for us to set stuff up because there was nobody who was doing it. That blows my mind. It's like your business. I'm paying you whatever.
Where's the money going?
For 5 weeks or 6 weeks for my son to play.
Yeah.
Make it something that's worth value. So I feel like there is a complete disconnect, and it only hurts the athletes.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're getting to is where I think my mission is taking me. And again, I still work with elite athletes, but I don't want to say they're going to be okay. But it's just a different conversation. And we could focus on 5,000 people or 60 million and growing.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I kind of danced around the NCAA, because the problem doesn't even start there. It starts, again, 5 years old. I think it's probably maybe 4. I think you can play soccer a little younger. It's the minute it becomes a business and we pretend it isn't a business,
Right.
That's where we need to reshape. How does this process go so that, yes, it can be a business, which it should be, and I think that's fine. But how do we make it a fun business? How do we make it an educational business and an empowering business that propels young athletes?
And a business that provides value in both ways. That's my point, is that, look, it's fine if you want to have the coaches be volunteers. I don't have a problem with that. I don't, that's amazing. But give them the tools that they need then. Like, look at it as an exchange of value,
Yeah.
Right.
which is what businesses are, an exchange of value. And then you see it differently.
Yeah.
And maybe then there's a trickle-down effect. Now, I personally don't necessarily believe that universities should pay their athletes. I think the NCAA might want to, but, there's parameters, obviously, and there's a lot of forces that are at odds. But I think you're absolutely right. It does start at the very earliest ages.
Well, and this is a great time, just again, for all the sports professionals out there. Like, I have a program that I'm taking some athletes through now. Is that, and a big thing they preached when we were going through our program at undergrad is that a lot of the jobs and a lot of the things people are going to ultimately end up doing in the new age we live in probably don't exist yet. And especially in an industry like sports, where you see the sports betting, you see so many things that are just 20 years ago, you're like, oh, that never would happen. 10 years ago, that never is going to happen. I think the next decade of sports is going to be a balloon, and it's just going to be something we're going to see so much innovation with the technology and the data that's coming in that it's going to create opportunities for everyone. But I think a big thing that is holding the sports industry back is there's just so much of a power dynamic.
Sure.
And that's one of the solutions I have, is that I think we need to get everyone in a room, not everyone, literally not everyone in a room as well, but there just needs to be a voice and an opportunity for every stakeholder, parent, player, school, coach, trainers, AAU. I mean, everyone that's involved as a stakeholder with the sports process should have some ability to share their opinion, to be heard, and have some sort of advisory committee or some organization that doesn't enforce but oversees and make sure the resources are out there. So that's the biggest thing, is that I just feel the resources are not prevalent, so people don't get to access them and know what to do.
Absolutely.
We just had this conversation on the way over here.
Yeah.
Honestly, where, we are very fortunate to have a good friend who was a former NBA player, now a coach at a Division IIIA, school. And they're struggling. The university made the decision to have the team, and every year we don't have enough money for the coach. We don't have enough money for all the coaching.
There's no coaching budget,
Yeah.
so players are not only focused on academics and their game, but going on fundraising, which for a lot of them, I mean, if you're coming from, a family that's already limited resources, now you're going to go and raise $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for your school so you can play a game that you love.
Well, if I heard you correct, they're at the D3 level.
The D3.
D3.
So they can't even receive scholarships.
No.
So I'm just here either because I got academics or grants or however you funded me, but now I'm doing something that I'm essentially 100% doing for free, and then now I have to then go help you pay. That's I don't even know what concept that's.
Right?
No, but and we were saying it's so ridiculous because, again, okay, look, the university, you can critique the university. Maybe you shouldn't have set up a program, but if you're going to, you should have access to, okay, you're maybe not going to get as much as a Division I university, and we get that, but at least to make it so that if you apply to be in any division,
Right.
that there is some way that those programs can be maintained. Because the reality of it is that program is important, not in the sense of them winning whatever championship and all that, but we all know sports provides a way for many, many kids who cannot otherwise either go to school or have that education, that educational experience, or who learn so much by being on a team. They're better people because they've participated in sport at any level. Like it's just ridiculous.
So you touched on two things that have, again, just been very prevalent recently. Is that one? It's shocking to kind of hear what you guys have shared with me about that D3 basketball program, in the sense that the only two, and this is the D1 level, the only two revenue-generating sports for almost every school is basketball and football.
Right.
So if you can't bring entertainment from one of the two most popular sports, then there's a lot more administrative things that maybe are going on that are an issue.
Right.
But you really touched on, Wendy, a really important factor is that those 60 million and growing, they are statistically speaking going to be more healthy. They're going to be more determined. The abilities and the skills and the experiences you develop in sports, it shows, it's proven. They do better than non-athletic children. And I'm not saying everyone should rush out and be an athlete even if you just don't care for it or you don't like it. But it's been proven for years that they are at a better advantage to be successful in life. And I think that's why, if anything, it robs me the most from being an athlete that went through it, a parent that, unfortunately, I'm sure my kids are going to want to go through it because I want them to have access to it. But it's that they use the hope, like we talked about earlier, and they use hope in a distorted way where we want you to have hope, and if you're willing to pay for this hope, we'll keep just letting you deposit into the hope bank. But we know you're not going to return. And we know, like we just spoke of, there are other return on investments that we can't necessarily quantify, but we have to understand it's a business, and the business should be held accountable to realize that at least educate these players. You know, there's no one, I mean, you hear coaches and people that come in and they'll try to speak, the real aspect of it, but everyone else is just perpetuating the cycle as opposed to how can we, at whatever phase of the process we're in, bring a solution. And I think that's why I like the fact of getting everyone to come together in a cohesive manner from all aspects to realize it isn't the youth sports levels issue, it isn't a collegiate level, it isn't a professional level, it's a sports community needs to realize what do they want as an end product, because at the end of the day, and another thing I talk about in the book is that even for those select few that make it to the pro level, what funds it all, what makes it all possible is Tabitha, John, and Bill, and Sue sitting in the stands wearing the jerseys, coming to the games and paying.
Absolutely.
So if we don't serve those people and we just pretty much take advantage of them until they realize they're not going to become that individual, pretty soon people, I would hope, are eventually going to wise up to say, why do I allow this to be so instrumental in my life when it really is providing the value that I would like for and doesn't stand on the philosophy? So I think that's where I want to hope, I think that's where society is going, is that we're very conscious. I'm going to spend $1. Where does that dollar go? Who is it benefiting? What is it doing?
I think
that's
that's extremely
hoping,
idealistic.
but that's exactly conscious consumerism in sports it's very challenging, but I hear you.
I'll raise my hand. Ava shouldn't, because she's conscious about everything. I will raise my hand and say, you do. And more than me, and I don't always buy with like, where's the money going? So I totally agree with you, but I think because as consumers we're very very excited about our teams, we love being a part of it, that you can't rely on us to be the ones to be conscious. You gotta rely on the organizations, and when there's profit involved, then it's always going to be a bigger challenge. But the reality of it is that with everything, at least in my short life, I have noticed that, things do start to bubble up and be uncovered, and those areas where people are taking advantage and not, it does get there. It may take 30 or 40 years, but at some point, enough people stand up and say, at every level, let's say at the consumer level, at the corporate level, at the governance level, at whatever stage, people start to go, okay, there's something that's beautiful about our system and something that isn't working. And I don't want to have any of these organizations go away. They're important. I want them to acknowledge, like you're saying, acknowledge they're a business, acknowledge that, people need, there should be equanimity, there should be fairness in how people are treated, there should be, and people should have the right to make give Zion Williams however many millions of dollars you're going to give him this year. Go for it.
Well, you make me think something that's popping in my mind now is that, well, then maybe it goes back to the ultimate watchdogs. Maybe it's the federal government.
Oh,
Why
God.
are we?
Oh.
I'm not saying they're going to solve it, but we should hold them accountable for it because they're the ones that allows the NCAA and the NFL to be a nonprofit organization. It's like, why don't we, like we talk about the acknowledge piece, why don't we have them come in and say, listen, we know you're a business. You shouldn't have all these tax exemptions because you are not just a business, you're a multinational conglomerate. And it's like, come on, we got like, I think that's the thing that just blows my mind. It's like, nowhere else does this exist.
Well, and again, I'll go back to, I don't mind that they're given nonprofit status as long as there's an oversight and what that really truly means.
Yeah, and who it goes back to.
And who it goes back to.
Yeah.
And the
we're
beneficiaries.
We're going to do
of
a
it.
whole other segment on just this because there's a lot there. But I want to spend the last
know,
few minutes of
Sorry.
the show making sure that we talk about the book because I imagine that the work you've done has been enhanced certainly because you provide so much transparency for the whole, throughout the entire process. And it's not just transparency that your clients get to benefit from, but everyone that surrounds, them. But if you can talk to us quickly, because we really have just a few minutes, about what people can find specifically in the book, and if our audience can walk away today with maybe like the one tip you would offer everyone connected to sports, or the 2 or 3, but if they're quick.
There's literally just one tip, and I'll do that last. But the book is going to basically walk you through the process of what the current landscape of sports looks like. The sports industry as a whole, as we talked about, from youth to professional, from a historical standpoint, from a current age standpoint. And it's going to then provide what I think are some alternatives towards a better path, which we hit on a lot of those. I think giving a voice to all the stakeholders, letting some of the power dynamics shift slightly, and just being open to the conversation. Because right now I feel like the sports world is it's a very, I don't want to say a boys' club because it's definitely not that. It's just a very unwilling to change historical context industry that refuses to accept that innovation is coming if they don't want it or not, if they want it or not. So I think that's the biggest thing is that I'm trying to take us in the future of sports, is that's what I think you will get from the book. And the biggest value for no matter who you are in the world or of sports or outside of sports is the book and myself walk you through how to grow your value. Because at the end of the day, that's all, I don't want to say that's all life's about, but you have to know who you are, know where you are, and the most important part, grow your value, and your opportunities are coming. And that's what I do a job of, or an attempt of conveying.
Where can people find your book?
Sure, you can go directly to my website, empowermentsportsgroup.com/book. Look me up on Amazon as well. And I'd be really excited. I have a few individuals that are actually, as they're reading it, they kind of message me and things of that nature. Because, again, this is more, not to be corny, but I want this to be a movement. I know the power of sports from my own experience, from my professional experience, and I want everyone to be involved, not from a sense of just a fan. Being a fan is fun, but be an interactive fan. Make it better than it is today. And so I'd love to have people engage with me. And this is new. This is me coming out of my comfort zone. I used to hide and just do the work, and then I realized everyone wants to see you doing the work, even if the result isn't amazing. Like I thought that's all that mattered. So this is me being vulnerable and comfortable, and I think once you do that, good things happen. So
amazing things happen. We agree.
We can't thank you enough for being here. And as always, we always end with oh my God, I can't believe that the time has flown by and we barely talked about what we wanted to talk about. So I'm sure we will be asking you back. We are here every other Thursday at 1 p.m. On the West Coast, Pacific time zone. You can find us at thedistilleryinc.com or on our Facebook page of the same name. You can subscribe to this show on all of your favorite podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Castbox, Stitchers. It's like I'm very melodically,
we're just basically we're all over the place.
Everywhere.
It's beautiful. She's got multiple soapboxes.
If you like us, this is my favorite. This is my favorite soapbox. If you like us, please share us with your friends. Tell people about us because really we really love giving anybody in sports a platform to share what they're doing, and it really is always so surprising to us how much all of us who love sports have in common and how much it affects our lives day in and day out. So we truly appreciate all of you who tuned in and all of you who will listen, and we will see you in 2 weeks. And again, Michael, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest, and buy the book. It's very good. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ryan. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your research.